You are running with the Devils, and it's another victory show. 3 in a row, the Devils have won. We're so happy you can join us. I'm Ryan Knowles. Here with me, as always, Big John Caldwell. And Big John, as we like to say here on Running with the Devils, you give us 30 minutes, we'll give you the world of Arizona State football. And the Devils come out victorious on a Friday night at Sun Devil Stadium, knocking off those trees, chopping down those trees, beating the Stanford Cardinal 28-10. So great to see Big John, the Devils, get another win.
I thought it was our best effort of the year in terms of balance.
Defensive effort.
Yeah, I think because of the reduced mistakes and the discipline, the focus, I was really proud of the way that this team has bounced back to championship form. They look like $1 million.
They look like a championship team, certainly, especially defensively in that second half. As we go into the kind of our notes of the game, just things that we saw, things that we, obviously Devils moved to 5-1 on the year, 3-0 now in the conference, that ever important conference record, and now a number 18 ranking nationally, climbing up those ranking boards as we get closer, as we move into mid-season here. Things are starting to heat up in the Pac-12, and Devils are right there in the mix. And this was a great stat for me. A second half shutout for the second consecutive week. Of course, they did it to UCLA in Pasadena last week. Now they do it to Stanford and Tempe this week. Really great effort from the defense the whole way around.
Yeah, and the fact that I think both of us really thought last week that if we had somewhere around the 200 to 225, 30 yards, we'd win this game. Sure enough, they racked up 173 by halftime, and 255 by the end of the game. Best effort, just a terrific balance
from the rushing attack. Yes, yeah. That was really great to see. But I think that the defense definitely shined in this game. They only allowed 13 yards on the ground. When was the last time a Stanford team ran for 13 yards on the ground? Right. It had to have been a while. And then Tanner McKee, who was coming into this game with so much hype as the redshirt freshman quarterback playing so well for Stanford, coming off that upset win over Oregon, had not been picked off all season. He threw 3 in this game. Credit goes to the secondary there.
Whammy.
Definitely helped ASU with their field position. Of course, they were able to take one back to the house in the form of a Jack Jones pitch 6 to DeAndre Pierce down the sideline there.
Play of the year.
That essentially put the game away. Yeah, you and I both agree. Play of the year.
Everybody. Yeah.
Probably will be by the end of the season. So very, very nice game. Nice to see. Also, staying with the defense here, the pass rush. Great job. 5 sacks in this game. They really got after it, pinned their ears back, came after McKee, and got him rattled and forced him into some bad throws. That was really great to see.
The fact that we're not blitzing. This is all coverage.
Yeah.
By the front 4, it's very impressive. And I just love the fact that we're staying very our gap scheme, our gap management scheme, integrity really looks good. The 2s continue to just shine. When guys need to be spelled, that they
keeping everybody fresh, rotating guys in. It's really great to see. I mean, just a lot to like about this defense, especially from this game. I mean, looked like it was going to be a bit of a shootout early on. Both teams scoring on their first possessions. You really weren't sure how this game was going to shake out from a defensive standpoint, but ASU really made some nice adjustments and stepped up. And you're right. I mean, they were doing this without really blitzing all that much.
Right.
They were just kind of staying, getting their hands up in the passing lanes, making some plays on the ball,
containing
and picking their spots too. When they did blitz, DeAndre Pierce not only had that return for the touchdown, he also collected a sack in this game. So nice job for him filling up the stat sheet. And then offensively, not really a banner game, but you mentioned the rushing attack was very, very strong. That's another thing. I mean, when was the last time a Stanford defense gave up 255 yards rushing?
We kind of knew that was going to be a shortcoming this year, that they were vulnerable, and just looking at head to head, we kind of like line up stats and see where, who's got the advantage.
And
But
you and I
yes,
talked about that as well. I mean, really felt like ASU needed to have a strong rushing game. Stanford had been vulnerable against the run this year. They had a pretty good game stopping the run against Oregon, but ASU definitely came out and were able to attack on the ground and did a really nice job. Offense struggled a little bit in the second half. They really weren't able to get it going as much. Did have that nice touchdown on the trick play by Elijah Badger in the third quarter. But the important thing is they played well with a lead. They protected a lead. They didn't try to do too much there towards the end. They kept the chains moving and were able to put the game away in the fourth quarter by putting the ball on the ground. That was really good to see.
It was a little throwback, kind of the Herm Pro Ball kind of style, where you're protecting the lead. You're not running up the clock, you're running up the score.
Yeah.
But this is an observation. We just have so many weapons, and it's hard for teams to scheme against three good running backs. And then Elijah Badger, that kid, when he runs, it looks like he's not even running hard. He like glides, but he's fast. He's faster than everybody. He looks. I mean, when I slow it down in slow mo, it looks like he's fast, even in slow mo. He's going to be a heck of a kid for the next 3 years if he sticks around. But my gosh, that little trick play for that.
On the end around, they actually ran two trick plays in a row, which
Right.
you don't really see that often. And that was, I mean, yeah, he had the one touchdown run for 22 yards.
Yeah.
He also had a catch for 19 yards. So he definitely put his handprint on this game.
Yeah.
Which was really great to see, him get involved. I mean, he's been, a lot of hype surrounding him, and the fact that they're willing to go to him and put the ball in his hands is.
You can see why.
Just let him roam and make plays with the ball in his hands.
He's fast. Yeah.
Really great to see. Yeah, as fast as he is. Yeah, I kind of joked with you that he's got the moves like Badger.
Yeah.
Yeah, not moves like Jagger, moves like Badger.
Yeah. He's really beautiful to watch when he runs.
When you put the ball, he's must see TV. When they put the ball in his hands, he's fun to watch. He really has, with those. I mean, it seems like every time he touches the ball, he scores a touchdown lately.
Well, I guess he kind of had a word with Herm looking like, it ain't going to happen. You're not going to get the ball that much. You're still a freshman, But
yeah, there were things that you can take away from this game. I felt like Jaden Daniels didn't really have his best game throwing the ball. I mean, there were two times when he threw it. He had a longer throw, and it was way behind the receiver. The receiver
had to wait
on it. When those if those passes are on time and leading the receiver, they're touchdowns. There was one on the trick play to Hodges that got them down into the red zone right before they scored one of their touchdowns. And then towards the end of the game, right after they had a fourth down stop, they went up top to try and put the game away with a deep pass to Jordan Porter, and he was wide open. Yeah. If the Jaden gets the ball out on time and leads him like he's supposed to, that's another touchdown. So, and this is why people ask me, is Jaden going to come back for another year? Is he, what's his plan? I'm saying I really think he needs to come back for another year, because it's throws like that, those downfield throws. Some games he looks like he's on point. He looks like he's pro ready. He's, making all the throws. And then there are games like this where he's, just not getting the ball out on time. He's just not hitting his guys in stride the way you'd really like to see him do it.
So that's on the negative side. On the positive side, really, I thought for the first time this year, he started stepping up in the pocket, and I think it was. And he looked pretty comfortable doing it. He's still, his thing is he likes to drop, read, then step up and throw.
He needs to step up and read simultaneously.
And then do his read. Yeah.
He really needs to do it simultaneously while he kind of uses peripherals, see where the rush is going, step up, and while you're stepping up, go through your progressions.
Right.
That's how the big boy quarterbacks do it. And again, that's something else that he really needs to develop. So, I think it would really benefit him to come back another year. I don't think he's pro ready at this point. He had, not taking anything away from him, had a really nice game. 51-yard rushing touchdown was a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
I think that, he had a solid game, took really good care of the ball. What do you have? I think he was completed 73% of his passes for 175 yards, no turnovers, which is really great to see.
73% puts him in the elite category in the quarterbacks amongst the pack.
Oh yeah.
One thing that I think I was pointing this out to you, or maybe I know so many people like to text during the game, but Stanford's quarterback did the same thing that he did against Oregon, in that they do these glance routes. That is, he's looking forward and he's freezing the linebackers, and he's getting a one-on-one quick slant glance. So in other words, he's looking forward, and at the last second he looks and throws. And it was all by design, not because he's reading anything. That's just he freezes forward, and that's where he got his biggest gains on us.
Yeah, and as a redshirt freshman, I mean, you kind of keep things simple for him.
Right.
Have him do kind of simple things like that, and just kind of let his receivers make plays on the ball, which they did to a certain extent. But the secondary was also able to make some plays as well. So, and they were able to limit them, and certainly, credit goes to the defense, turning them into a one-dimensional offense.
Mm-hmm.
Turning Stanford into a one-dimensional offense was really great to see. So, definitely a lot to like what the defense was able to do. The fact that Stanford was pretty simple on offense. The defense made some adjustments after that first drive when Stanford had that touchdown,
right?
And we're really able to shut them down for the most part.
Well, it's just so weird not seeing Stanford reloading at all those offensive line positions as they have, and not having a dominant runner.
Yeah, and they didn't really. Yeah, they don't really. I mean, they're coming down on the offensive line. Don't really have any blue chip prospects. They had one go in the draft last year. Walker Little went pretty high to the Steelers, but you're right. They haven't really reloaded and where they were churning out pro level offensive linemen year in and year out.
Right.
It really hasn't been the trend of late. You're right about the running back. Nathaniel Pete's a decent player, but certainly not to the level that Bryce Love, Christian McCaffrey, guys like that have come out of Stanford.
Toby Gerhart.
Yeah, exactly. Have come out of Stanford and gone on to have good pro careers. Yeah. So, definitely ASU did a good job taking advantage of that, not letting Stanford get a ton of confidence, and were really able to put this game away. I'd say by the third quarter for the most part. So, just as we always do here on Running with the Devils, we get some of Herndon's comments about the game there. You can see, he had some really nice things to say about the secondary, in which they certainly earned. They had themselves a heck of a game, even though, it didn't really show up necessarily in the stat sheet because, Stanford was so one-dimensional. They were leaning so heavy on McKee and throwing the ball. He did throw for 356 yards in this game, but again, those 3 interceptions loomed very, very large and really keyed ASU to coming out with the win.
We have it was a little scary there when Evan Fields went down or came out. I think he's still got the nagging.
He missed the UCLA game. He's still kind of trying to battle back from that injury. You mentioned, we talked about some of the injuries this week, but just amongst ourselves, Michael Matus was another guy who may not play this week.
I think Herm's playing a little bit of, and same thing with Chase.
He missed the Stanford game as well. That's right.
Yeah, and Chase balled out and made that really nice tackle down by the goal line, and he actually broke a couple of ribs, folks, on the back side of the ribs. So he's he did play. I'm sorry, he did play in the Stanford game. I think he missed UCLA. Right, and he made a heck of a play. In fact, people were sitting down in that area said it was a horrendous sounding pop when he hit the guy. He's probably going to be
anytime you try to tackle a fullback in open space like that. Yeah, you're not going to walk. You're not going to walk right for a little bit. So, kudos to him on making that big hit. And I probably would have broken something too if I tried to make that play, because that big old fullback was bearing down on him, and that was a tough play to make. But he stuck his nose into the fire and made it. Mm-hmm. So,
So
that's really tough to see. That he's going to be tough to replace. But we mentioned Matus and Fields. Again, tough guys to replace who done some really great things for this team this year. But hey, that next man up mentality, guys have got to step up. To Marcus Davis, Mason Williams, the freshman Tommy Hill,
Markham,
stepping up in the secondary. That defensive line's kind of been ravaged by injuries most of the year. Obviously, Jermaine Lole going down early in the year has been tough. Matus may not play against Utah. He's really great at setting the edge. You gotta have the next guys step up. And you mentioned Evan Fields. Of course, he missed UCLA. K1 Markham came through and stepped up as well. So
nice.
The guys have been thrust into difficult situations this year and have come out better the other side. And that defense is about as deep as we've seen it in our time here at ASU.
Yeah, and the adjustment really, folks, second half was, we started out in zone on defense, and the second half, as the game went on, the second half, we went to a man coverage, something called cat coverage. Cat coverage is where you take your whoever is on the outside, who has the outside man, stays with him regardless. If he stays short, he goes long. The same guy's always covering him. And it worked out real well. I mean, Jack Jones was just knocking down balls. He had an all-pack kind of a game, I thought.
Oh yeah, he had a fantastic game. He probably should have had one other interception as well.
Well, he likes that man coverage, I think. Yeah, really, it's more his style.
What corner doesn't like being put on an island against the opposing team? They're competitors, man.
Right.
They want to compete against the opposing team's best receiver. So, and that's Jack to a T. He loves to compete and go up against go best on best against the other team. So, definitely solid game for him. He's having himself a terrific year. I think he's definitely playing his way into the first few rounds of the draft with his level of play this year. And hey, who can forget that Rashad White hurdle? Huh? That was a heck of a play.
That certainly got the national attention of the media. But no, folks, when I talk about out-athleting the other team, this is what I'm talking about: is a quarterback who can run, like this.
Hey, you can go 51 yards to the house. Yeah,
just unbelievable. And then the play of the year, Jack to Pierce.
Pitch six, yes.
The pitch six. Every great play's got to have a name, right?
Yeah, and hey, that game that basically put the game away. And they actually mentioned, this week at practice, they talked about doing that as a defense. Making a lateral, to create a big play. And they were able to do that, and that score basically put the game out of reach.
It crushed them. Last Saturday was a hell of a weekend for college football. There was more quality games and great upsets, and I keep watching the game going, the lateral is such an unused weapon in college football, especially
it has a degree of risk to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what's fun about it. So now, but it certainly was fun to watch this weekend. So you mentioned it, some great games, and we were able to watch a lot of them because hey, ASU played Friday, everybody else played Saturday. So it was really great to see. So as we always do here on Running with the Devils, every week after a win, we do our Players of the Game presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club. To support local athletics, check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. And for me this week, I kind of criticized him a little bit, but I still got to give my Player of the Game on offense to Jaden Daniels. I mentioned very solid, very efficient passing game, 14 to 23, 175 yards, and again a force on the ground, 76 rushing yards, and that beautiful 51-yard scamper for a touchdown. And then on defense, plenty of guys to pick from in this game. Certainly some nice games to go around. Got to give a shout out to Keon Markham, who got his first career interception this week off that right before the end of the first half on that tip ball. That was really great to see. But my Player of the Week's got to go to Tyler Johnson. The defensive end had himself a monster game with 5 tackles, 2 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss. And he also gained some national recognition this year, being the Walter Camp Defensive Player of the Week, as well as the Pac-12 Defensive Lineman of the Week. Really big accolades for a guy we consider to be a friend of the program, and somebody who, we saw him after the game at the tailgate.
Yeah, it was nice of him to stop by and say hi to you and me. Yeah,
good, hardworking young man. We want nothing but good things for him.
Well, and if I tell you what, this I'm really, really proud of Tyler for sticking through, for persevering after when he was ready to throw in the towel last year.
Yeah, and he contemplated retirement at one point. That's true.
And he really had a chance to sit with Antonio Pierce and some others who just said, "Look, one game at a time. You let me, you let me coach you, and you're gonna make some bank, kid." Which was really his goal. But he couldn't see how to get from here to there.
Yeah.
And I think Antonio really just broke it down, saying, "Look, man, we'll take care of your body. We'll get you in shape. We'll get you, you get your knees right, get all that stuff right, and just we're going to put you in a position to make a lot of tackles." And that's what's happening here.
And the D-line coach Rodriguez coming from the NFL saying, "Hey, kid, I know what it takes to make it in the league.
Yeah.
Let me coach you up. I can help you get there." I think that certainly helped as well. Him coming in the way he did.
Yeah, and he'll tell you, he grew up this last year, and he's looking at things a lot differently than he did last year. All he could see was, the next injury, and in practice, getting such a bad stinger that he practically was paralyzed there for 30, 45 minutes last year, and it scared the heck out of him. But we talk, we text, we communicate to each other, and I love the kid. I just think
we want nothing but good things for him. We really like him. He's a good kid. He's a local kid from Gilbert. Just want nothing but good things for him because he works hard and he certainly deserves them.
Well, I just think I can't help but think that if he gets his body just a little more right, his best games are ahead of him still.
Oh yeah,
that was really the point I wanted to make. And then, so my two players of the game, White obviously had a monster game, 1 yard shy of 100, but that's academic. That's just a number, right? 100 yards. But it was the fact that he was so dominant. 1 TD, one reception. But he's averaging 7.4 yards per carry, folks. This is just this is an all Pac kind of year he's having, obviously, in making a. And the fact that he's being followed up with Train, with Chip, these teams they're not prepared for two runners to just keep pounding it like this, one after the other. They expect a break at some point. They don't get it. There's just no relief.
And then you got the change of pace and Nagata coming on.
Oh my God!
It's a three-headed attack, and it's been working very, very well this year.
It's really it's a four-headed attack when you consider Daniels.
Yeah,
is so good at what he does. And then Jack Jones really on defense, I thought. He didn't have the most tackles, and actually went to Fields, had the most tackles before he got injured. He probably would have ran away with it, but 4 solos, 1 interception, 2 pass breakups. He's going out for the dance team. I noticed on the sideline there, had everybody. He
is very entertaining when he's on the field, whether it's during the play or between a play. He's definitely fun to watch.
Yeah, he's and the fact that we're not corralling that they're letting it go. That when Herm says play free, that's what he's talking. Go ahead and do that kind of thing. I think that's they're writing that fine line of discipline.
These are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. You got to let them have some fun, or they're just not going to play as well for you. So
right.
Yeah, go out there and let them have some fun. Yeah, that's definitely Jack Jones to a T. So those are our players of the game, presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club, and definitely a solid performance by everybody on this list. Was really great to see.
And these are all performances that you can build on. That's the cool thing about it. Jaden can be more efficient. Tyler, he gets his body right, can have even a couple more sacks. Rashad,
Jaden gets some of those throws together. You have a couple more touchdown passes.
This is correct. There's 14 points on the board that I probably got left. So let's on to Utah.
Moving on to Utah, yes, huge division, Pac-12 South division game in Salt Lake City. expect the elements to be at play here. It's probably going to snow a little bit Friday night. There is some rain, a little bit of rain in the forecast for Saturday, but we're hoping that by 7:30 kickoff, it'll be, it won't rain during the game. Fingers
Dry up,
crossed.
dry
But
up.
it will be wet. It will be
Cold.
certainly. But those are that's the game. Everybody's dealing with that. You got to go out there and play your game. And for Utah, they're really starting to come into their own. They're really starting to play some good ball. They took care of business last week in the Coliseum against USC. Certainly not an easy task. And it starts with their quarterback, Cameron Rising. He's really, really playing well. The former University of Texas blue chipper transferred in. It's been 2-0 since he was a starter. He was actually named the starter at training camp. Injured his shoulder, missed the first couple games. Charlie Brewer started. The Baylor transfer started. And then Cameron Rising, they put Cameron Rising in. He played so well. Charlie Brewer left the program.
Right. Vamonos.
Yeah, I know. Crazy.
Vamonos.
But there's a reason why. I mean, Cameron Rising's playing about as well as anybody about as well as anybody in the conference right now. 68% completion, 625 yards through the air, 7 touchdowns, and that all important 0 interceptions. And he can do it with his feet too. He's a dual threat guy, 105 yards and a touchdown on the season. He earned himself Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week for his performance against USC. He's also been named to the Davey O'Brien Midseason Award watch list for the best quarterback in the nation. And he's really, really playing well, and definitely somebody you're going to have to account for.
Now, the kid, Newbury Park High School star,
Ventura,
is from Ventura. In fact, he lives a couple doors down from my son next to Buena High School in Ventura. Neat kid, though, man. He's just he's turned it around.
One-time ASU target, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But he's and the fact that he's on everybody's lists all of a sudden is not surprising after what he's been doing. He's nice big arm. He's probably not the big running threat. He can run. He's got wheels, but he's not. They don't put him in that position to have him run like.
No, they don't really run a ton of design plays for him to use his legs. But I mean, they will use him in conjunction with the running back. They will do some read option stuff, as most teams do nowadays. But he's really starting to play well, and he's starting to get on the same page with the receivers. You mentioned, he's got a big arm. You definitely use the deep ball against USC a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And, Utah's kind of bucking the trend of their teams from the past. Before, Utah could always be expected to be, big, physical, run-first team, which they used to set up the pass.
And an athletic quarterback who could run, too.
A lot of times, yes.
Yeah.
But this team's kind of using the pass more to set up the run. They do have a couple of very good running backs who they'll utilize both of them. But it's really been the Cam Rising show since he took over as the starter, utilizing the passing game more, throwing the ball deep down the field, using some of these long sustained drop, not being so much a possession based team, but actually trying to run up the score on some teams, which is what they did against USC last week. I mean, they really put the game out of reach in the first half. And a big reason why was play of Cam Rising. But their running backs had, Tavion Thomas, the Cincinnati transfer, he was kind of the hot hand against USC, 113 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He had a really, really nice game. Micah Bernard, the freshman, has kind of been a rotational guy. He's also a very good receiver out of the backfield. He's got 12 receptions for 89 yards on the season. But they'll use them in conjunction with each other. They kind of, Thomas is kind of a bigger physical guy. Micah Bernard's more the third down back, good receiver out of the backfield. But combined, they have 512 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. So you don't really have like the Devontae Booker type, big physical workhorse type of back that you usually see at Utah. It's really been these two guys being utilized, and not even all that much. They've really kind of become a pass first team. which is again unusual for Utah. I mean, they've always been
Clearly,
always been a run first team with a big physical offensive line, a big physical running back, as a bell cow, and they're kind of going in a different direction this year, much like Stanford is.
Well, I think the recruiting got a little out of whack when you had all these fifth year guys last year and the year before. They were so senior across both fronts that maybe it's just things are kind of out of whack recruiting wise.
Yeah, and then also, of course, their the tragedy that they suffered with their Pac-12 Freshman of the Year running back passing away. And that was such a big blow to the program.
Mm-hmm.
They they kind of needed to change things up a little bit, not be so reliant on the running game as much anymore. Which is
well, a lot of people have pointed to the fact that Coach Willingham has really made some changes. In other words, they've come close a couple of years, flirted with winning the championship, but that something needed to change, and maybe this is idea of a change, that is to be throwing more and score more. I don't know. I mean, I think that was the criticism coming in.
To compete in the Pac-12, I mean, that's kind of what you need to do to a certain extent, score more points.
Yeah.
Even though, especially if you don't have a ton of blue chip pro prospects on your defense to stop everybody. This is a defense, we'll talk about the defense in a minute, but this isn't a defense with Bradley and Lecky Fotu, Julian Blackman, Marcus Williams type of players on it.
Crazy.
When all those guys were on that defense, they were playing as well as anybody in the country defensively. You could kind of pick and choose, the type of offense you wanted to run. Now, you kind of have some younger kids, less experienced, less dominant. You kind of have to kind of keep pace with everybody by throwing the ball more.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the nature of the game. But they're still kind of much like the Utah teams of old. They're still utilizing the tight end quite a bit. They'll use two or three tight ends on the field at the same time.
Right.
Especially Brant Kuithe. He's kind of become the go-to guy in this offense with 20 receptions, 192 yards, and a touchdown on the season. He also had a rushing touchdown against USC, so they'll use him a lot of different ways. Dalton Kincaid has kind of become the big red zone target with 12 receptions, 188 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the year. They'll line them up wide. They'll line them in tight. They're both pretty good run blockers as well. So, these are two guys you really got to watch out for. And with the way that I'll talk about this a little bit later with the way ASU has struggled to cover the tight end in the passing game of late. These are two guys that you need to watch out for, and they'll use the third one too, Cole Fotheringham, as well. So,
well, I think there was a lot of talk this week about winning the 50-50 ball, and this is what we're talking about right here. Is guys
throw it up for these guys and just let them go get it.
And let them go get it, yeah. And usually it's where our Achilles heel this year really has been in the seam between the corner and the safety. That's where they run these guys. So yeah, I think we're very aware of it. I think we're kind of that's our tell this year is while we'll play zone, and if we're in the zone, that seam is where we're vulnerable, especially for the tight end coming out there. So yeah, I think
some we got to account for in this game against these teams with these tight ends that could be serious weapons.
Yeah, it's a real point of emphasis. I can tell because I hear the coaches yapping about it in interviews. And then the guy who he's the Swiss Army knife. He's a playmaker. He's prone to injury. But man, this kid just balls out.
He's been healthy this year.
Britton Covey, yeah. If he stays healthy, man, this kid could be gone after this year. I mean, that's the big question in Utah is how long is this kid going to stick around? But just a hell of an
you mentioned being the Swiss Army knife. He's kind of like our Ricky Pearsall.
Exactly.
He's used in a lot of different ways. 20 receptions, 141 yards, and a touchdown on the year. 28 rushing yards. He's a threat on special teams as well. He's got a punt return touchdown for the year. He's been on all these award watch lists. Earned accolades for his special teams play. So definitely somebody you got to watch out for because when they put the ball in his hands, he's got big playability written all over him.
And he is a heck of a returner, punt and kickoff return man too. So he's a threat.
Wouldn't be the worst idea to kick away from him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And then,
right.
with the passing game kind of being as prevalent as it has been the past couple weeks,
Yeah,
uh, you know, Rising has really started to spread the ball around a little more, started to get on the same page with some of these receivers. Devon Vele, Theo Howard both made some big plays against USC. Solomon Enos, the local kid, he's got 13 catches on the season. He's been a threat. They each have a receiving touchdown. So, even though some of these players, I mean, Theo Howard, a lot of people may remember from his time at UCLA.
hmm
He was there for a couple of years, transferred to Oklahoma. Now he's back in the Pac-12 with Utah. He had a nice long catch against USC. So he's starting to come into his own. Rising has gotten better and better. He's starting to get a rapport with these receivers,
Yep.
and it's gotten better and better each week, I think.
Chemistry.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
and that's something ASU could stand to get a little more of. Even though it's been better this year, but yeah, you're right.
it's
Chemistry between quarterback and receiver, it's such an underrated aspect of the
yep,
game that you need to talk about. And you can't just throw guys out there and expect them to hook up all the time.
right.
Gotta have some
Yeah,
work together in practice.
yeah.
And
And last year with COVID and the inability to even talk to each other, sit in the same room,
yes,
break down film, whatever together. There was no chemistry. Let's face it. I mean, it was very, very, very little. This year, it's been building each week, and you can see Jaden's finally,
it's gotten better, but I think as far as Utah goes, it's been kind of a similar situation.
Mhm.
Cameron Rising being hurt at the start of the year with that shoulder injury, he really wasn't able to get on the same page with some of his receivers. He's been using the tight ends, as a good quarterback should, as a safety blanket.
Mhm.
But now he's starting to spread it out to the receivers a little more, and that's dangerous. That could get them over the top possibly in this division.
Mhm.
If you're not careful. So ASU secondary going to have to be on its A game. They're going to have to get after Cameron Rising a little bit better. Better than at least better than USC did for
Yeah.
what it's worth, and play their A game defensively, because this is a Utah offense that they're not just lining up getting 4 yards in a cloud of dust. They got big play guys on that offense
Mhm.
who can make you pay if you don't know your assignments. So
Did they have a change of offensive coordinator? I know they had a change of offensive coordinator the year before. Did they have a change happen
um,
before this year?
I didn't really look.
I thought
I
they did.
know that their offensive coordinator right now is Andy Ludwig.
Yeah, he was
He's
here.
he's in his third season. This
That's
is
right.
his second stint at Utah, his
Right.
seventh season overall in Salt Lake City. But no, he's been there for a little bit. So I think it's just kind of more, as far as recruiting goes, just some of when we mentioned that untimely death from the running back, just kind of facilitated the change in philosophy, and with Rising playing as well as he has,
Right.
that's kind of just changed the philosophy that they've had offensively. But now moving on to the defense, certainly this is another hallmark of Utah teams. They always have very good
Right.
defensive players, and this year's no exception. They have a pro level linebacker in the form of Devin Lloyd. He's very easy to find. He's usually in the middle. He's usually the one finishing the play with a tackle. This guy is a tackling machine.
There's a
54
note.
tackles on the year, 9 for loss. Yeah, he will fill up the stat sheet too. He's a bit of a ball hawk. 2 sacks, 2 interceptions on the season. He's really easy to find. Just look for the big number 0. That's him, Devin Lloyd.
Yep, they got a 0 just like we got one, but
Yeah, and he's a playmaker there in the middle. He's quarterback of the defense. He has made a ton of plays this year. Fully expect him to hear his name called in the NFL draft this spring. And defensive end, their big pass rusher, defensive end Mika Tafua, 16 tackles on the season, 5.5 tackles for loss, and 4.5 sacks. Leads the team. This team definitely gets after the quarterback. They're second in the conference with, I believe, 14 sacks, I think, on the season, which is second, or it might be. I think that's about right. They're second in the conference behind only ASU in quarterback sacks. So
and a bunch of these guys have been on mission. A lot of these guys are old.
oh yeah,
Older players.
They're well into their 20. They're in their 20s.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's they're a lot like BYU. They benefit from a lot of these guys going on missions and being 24 years old by the time 25 years old by the time they're out of there.
Yeah, and another linebacker whose name might be familiar to Pac-12 fans, Neffy Sewell. I believe he's the cousin or younger brother of Penei Sewell from Oregon, who is with the
Yes.
Detroit Lions now. 30 tackles on the year, 4 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. He's another playmaker in that linebacking core. He had a bit of a scare against USC. Went out for a few plays because of injury. He did come back, though. We'll see if he's at 100% on Saturday, though. And then in the secondary, cornerback Clark Phillips III has been having a nice year in his own right. 30 tackles, a half tackle for loss, an interception, and 5 pass deflections. He's a bit of a ball hawk out there. Definitely very, very, very nice player. And then a freshman, safety Kamoy Latu, is having a nice. He's really starting to come into his own. He's been playing better and better each and every week. 14 tackles on the season, 2 pass deflections, and he was for his performance against USC. He was named Pac-12 Freshman of the Week. So another guy. All 3 levels of this team are pretty strong. Certainly not. They don't have like the all everything they did a couple years ago when ASU played them.
Where they're
still a strong defense with some playmakers that you definitely need to watch out for.
I mean, they went from, I remember they would go from like all Pac, all pros on the D line and a good linebacking core, and then the next year it was all the linebacking core were all studs. They go back and forth between where's the strength of the defense.
Right, and then it all kind of came together 2 years ago. When they
they beat up everybody.
All 3 levels were really good, and ASU was only able to put up 3 points against them. So
we let those guys beat us not only there, but we let them beat us the following UCLA game too.
That started a string of 4 straight losses 2 years ago that basically put us out of contention in the Pac-12 South. But this is, I think this is still a beatable Utah team. Now they did give up a ton of passing yards to Keaton Slovis and that USC offense. But most of those were during garbage time after the game had pretty much been decided. So Utah, even though USC's kind of been a bit of a lame duck, especially after Clay Helton was fired, still a solid team. And Utah really, really played well on both sides of the ball against them. So this is really a Utah team that's starting to figure it out. I think they had a couple of tough losses at the beginning of the year. Obviously, their rival BYU. They started out the season ranked 24th in the nation, lost a tough one in Provo to their rival BYU in the Holy War. And then the next week they took San Diego State to triple overtime in Carson before they ultimately were defeated. But so far they're 2-0 in the Pac-12 with wins over Washington State, and then obviously last week against USC. So this is really shaping up to be a big game that'll probably determine, may very well determine the winner of the Pac-12 South, or at least who's in the driver's seat going, as we kind of go past the halfway pole.
It's so interesting how this year started off. On paper, we always thought SC was going to be the game, and then because we saw that they weren't playing well, we thought, okay, UCLA was going to be the key game. We got past that. It
probably still is.
It is, but I think we know, but the way it's all played out, Utah really is the pivotal game here.
Well, at this point, yes. I mean, these are the last 2, as far as conference records go, the last 2 undefeated teams in the Pac-12. So, yeah, I mean, as far as who's going to be in the driver's seat in the South, this is the game. This is going to determine, what team may come out of the South, barring any unforeseen issues going the last 5 weeks or so of the season. So it's that, but that's why they play the game. I mean, that's what they go out to do, and that's why we have our keys to the game, presented by XLLending.com. For all your mortgage needs, check out XLLending.com. And for me, a couple things. First, on offense, I really think you need to dink and dunk a little bit against this Utah team. Have some longer, sustained drives, especially given the elements. You may not be able to go as deep as you want. You might need to run some just quick, simple plays, short passes, screens and draws to slow down that pass rush.
It worked against UCLA.
Yeah, and maybe test this. Roll out a couple trick plays to test this Utah defense's eye discipline and their ability to stay home, and just see what happens. I think that's worked for them so far up to this point. So why go away from it? And I think that's something that you definitely want to see. But I think if you keep things relatively simple, as far as don't run too many long developing plays, because this is a very strong pass rush you're going up against this weekend. I think if you use some screens, some draws, just try and run some slants and just easy passes, easy completions to help keep the chains moving, keep the ball out of the Utah offense's hands. I think you're doing yourself a service.
Don't you think that part of this, what you're bringing up here, is that within the first quarter, we're going to have to test and see how vulnerable they are to Jaden's ability to, the read option, to see if he can get off or not.
Well, yeah, and that's going to be the communication issue. Hopefully they've gotten all that ironed out from BYU, because they're going to need to run some RPO. They're going to need to run some read option stuff against this team. Just hopefully everybody goes the direction they're supposed to this time, and that's the case. And then also they talked about this during their media time this week about how loud it's going to be. It's probably going to be loud there at Rice Eccles Stadium.
That's my point.
The silent count. How good is the silent count going to be? It's going to be something else we got to figure out. So hopefully they've gotten that ironed out, because that was a huge issue against BYU as well. So those are things you're going to have to find out how I think that running some of these simple plays where you're not having to change too much at the line is also going to do you a service, being that it's going to be a rowdy environment.
Yeah.
So just keep we mentioned keeping it simple before in the keys to the game. That this is part of that. Just kind of running simple stuff, nothing too long developing to where you're putting yourself in bad situations as far as behind the yard markers. And just keeping the ball moving, keeping the clock moving, keeping the ball out of, not letting that Utah offense get into any kind of rhythm, and controlling the time of possession, I think is
something I pointed out to you at the game. That was, when Case Hatch is blocking, wherever he lines up, it's kind of a tell where we're going, right?
Yeah.
But there was a series where they pulled him and they let Jaden run the RPO without him, and it got stopped twice in a row, completely wasted plays. And I thought to myself, they're testing something here. They're trying to see
time on fourth down, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. And I'm thinking they were trying something different. Can we fake them without having Case in there? And I think it proved it didn't work.
Well, yeah, and just because they know where the play is going doesn't mean they could stop it.
That's right.
Especially if Case Hatch is your lead blocker. He's been so good at that this year.
And so when you say simplify and
run behind him.
Keep Case in. He's killing people this year, folks. He's really. Everybody knows what his job is, and they can't stop him. So I just think he's, when you talk about dumbing it down, simplifying it, keep Case in the game.
Yeah.
Right.
And then on defensively, tighten up on the tight end. I think I mentioned this.
I know.
We were talking about it before. ASU's defense has struggled against the tight ends, especially as you mentioned. The seam the last 2 weeks. Dulcich from UCLA had 136 yards. Urosek from Stanford last week had 118 yards receiving. So and this is a Utah team that utilizes multiple tight ends.
Right.
Where they run plays for them, they'll go to them quite a bit. So Dalton Kincaid and Brant Queethy, two guys that you absolutely have to know where they are and put bodies on them, whether it's a linebacker, whether it's a safety, maybe slide a corner over on them. Just don't let them, dink and dunk and keep the chains moving by going to the tight end every single time, because that was something that Stanford was able to do with with relative ease last week, and UCLA much the same way. Don't let the tight end beat you, because that's a big part of this Utah offense.
Right.
So you got to keep guys on them, I think, at all times. You definitely know where those tight ends are because they'll use them in a lot of different ways. And they love and Cam Rising loves to go to them. So
I think we'll know in the first quarter if we start dropping linebackers, especially outside guys to help.
And even if they're in a zone, I mean, if they're just reading the quarterback size, kind of, just get your hands in the passing lane. Because that's been something that the linebackers kind of struggled to do at times this year, especially when they're going up the seam. Maybe you bring the safeties down, have them drop in on the linebacker, drop in on the tight ends. So just something to kind of take the tight end out of the game a little bit.
Yeah.
Just because it's such a big part of Utah's offense.
I agree.
You kind of help take that away. Maybe you limit what they're able to do offensively.
Yeah, and while we on to my points, while we did a really good job of at both UCLA and Stanford of just not being fazed by whatever they threw at us whenever the opposing team scored. We just went right back to work. Nothing fazed us.
Resiliency, resiliency.
I think
all great teams have it. Absolutely,
they do, and I think that's something you keep building on. But you can't afford another game like BYU where the crowd where you screw up early, have them score right away.
It affected you so significantly.
It did. It really shook us, and you can't have any of that. You have to maintain And by the way, this team maintains its poise too, late into games. So that's why they've been so good. Why their record's so good is because they've been able to maintain poise. I think the team who maintains their poise all the way through to the end of the game is going to win this game. That's a key for me.
Fewest mistakes usually wins.
Yeah, I think I just can't help but shake it that poise on the road is so important, and that this is a test to see. You were at UCLA. No, the crowd was not an issue. It's bound to be again though this week.
Well, and there wasn't a great crowd to begin with for that game.
Right.
They and they were basically taken out of it by the fourth quarter when ASU made that fourth down goal line stand. They started heading for the exits at that point. So, but yeah, I mean, if you can get off to a good start and kind of take the crowd out of the game, get ahead, put Utah in chase mode, and not let the crowd get any kind of momentum,
right?
And fuel the team. Then you put yourself in a great position to win. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then because it could be a cold and wet night, not exactly Arizona weather.
But we talked about this as well. The great thing about that is running game and defense travels, and that's been ASU's hallmark this season. They've got a very strong running game, they've got a strong defense. Those travel; those aren't really affected by the elements as much.
Yeah, we have the number one defense, folks, in the pack.
Yeah,
and when you line up against their offense, 1 beat 7. I'm sorry. There's so many things that you can look at statistically and say we win this game on paper just because of not just the athletes, but statistically, this line against that line kind of thing. But it all goes out the window if you lose the ball. So maintaining making no mistakes, don't putting the ball on the ground is really key to me in a game like this. So I'm more talking about, for me, it's intangibles. For you, it's passing, it's strategy and
tangible.
Yeah,
tangibles. Yeah. I know, but you love to focus on the intangibles, and they're a big part. They're a big part of the game. Absolutely. I'm not going to debate that. I just, based on what I've seen from Utah, based on what we know the weather's going to be like, just what we've seen out of ASU's defense, the way they've struggled at tight end, I think that they, just shore up a few things. There's no reason that ASU can't come out and like you mentioned, out athlete Utah.
Well,
because if you're just talking straight athletes, ASU's gotten them beat by a mile.
Oh yeah, but when we went into BYU, we really didn't have an identity. We were searching for an identity. Yes. We have one now, and I think that's another intangible going into this thing. The defense now should take some real pride in the fact that they're the number one defense in the pack.
And I think they do. I
and
mean, I think that's kind of where those
the
second half
sh-
shutouts have come from.
right.
It's realizing, hey, we know who we are.
We can ball.
But yeah, exactly. We can go out there and play with anybody. Let's go out there and show it. I think that's the mentality that the coaches are kind of put in their heads, and they're embracing it. And I think you definitely see that in their play this year, and especially in the last 3 weeks. Now they just got to go out there and do it again. Just do it week in and week out. The consistency is another hallmark of great teams. And you got to win. You got to win all games inside your division. If you're serious about winning the South, representing the division in the Pac-12 championship game, this is a game that you got to go out and win, so that you continue to control your own destiny and not rely on help. Because I have a funny feeling Utah is one of those teams that's going to get better and better each and every week, and
catch them now.
It's going to be tough for them for ASU to rely on any kind of help from Utah going forward. And they got to, they got to go out there and win this game, win this thing on their own. They got to go out there and take it, because it's going to be very, very tough for them to win it without winning a game like this. So. Just as we put a close on this, as we do every week, our predictions for this game, we're very similar to what we think ASU's offense is going to do. We're both saying ASU is going to score 27 points. I think that the defense will show up in the second half once again and kind of put Utah away. I'm saying 27-17. I think ASU wins, as they have all season, by double digits. And, even the BYU game, they lost by double digits. It's weird. It's kind of weird this season. Under Herm Edwards, they've always played close games. I've been really a lot of close games this year. If you're going from beginning to end,
and by design.
Yeah, very true. But I think having an identity, I think, has definitely helped with that, as you mentioned, especially since the BYU game. They kind of know who they are now. And I think that's that, coupled with the way the defense has been playing, is going to carry them through the end. I think Utah will definitely make a run, most likely in the first half, to keep things close. They may even have the halftime lead, but I think that the way that the ASU defense is in the second half, they close so well that I think that will carry over into this week, and ASU will come out on top by 10.
Yeah. I'm just still so happy with the way our number 2 defensive line and linebackers, and even our entire defense on the two from the second teamers has played so well. I
still continue to say deepest defense we've had here in a long time.
And the fact that every week they're getting developed, they're getting touches, they're getting reps. That's going to pay big time as we get into the last the gauntlet, as I call it, the last 3 or 4 games here. But this really is, to me, it's the biggest game of the year, and you got to just focus on nothing more than this. You got to go out and out execute, and the fact that we've cut the penalties so far down, that tells me there's a difference between execution and poise. Yeah. To me, execution is a play-by-play thing. Poise is really a matter of when you get down, how do you respond? And I like to make the distinction between the two, and I think this will be a game of who can maintain their poise the longest. And I see us coming out by 3. I don't know if it's a field goal or that wins it or not, but I think I think Utah's the kind of team that could take us out of our game a little bit, but not win it. So I'm saying 27-24, and we're right on the number with 51 is the over/under.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this before we made our predictions either. We never do.
No.
So, the fact that we're both saying 27 points for ASU is just pure coincidence. Although, once again, who was only 1 point off their prediction for the Colorado game? This guy. But to be fair, full disclosure, I did pick UCLA to win 2 weeks ago as well. So
right.
Take my advice.
And I was one point off of ASU.
Yeah. So that'll do it for this week on Running with the Devils. Of course, we always thank you for tuning in. Spending your evening with us. We've got to say good night. Forks up. Hey, what's a Ute? What is a Ute anyway? The 2 Utes. Go Devils. Forks up. Take it.